Football has always been obsessed with impossible people, the athletes who feel too fast for reality, too gifted for structure, too dangerous to make sense. Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders, Michael Vick, players who made football feel unfinished. And now, the sport believes it found another one, Travis Hunter, a player so talented, football stopped treating him like a normal human being years ago. Because Travis Hunter wasn't supposed to have limitations. He was supposed to play everywhere, dominate everywhere, become everything. But there's a problem with impossible football players. Eventually, football asks them to survive, and survival changes everything. Because the NFL didn't draft Travis Hunter to stay impossible, it drafted him to last, and those are two very different things. That's the terrifying part of this story. Not whether Travis Hunter is talented enough. Everyone already knows he is. The terrifying part is what happens when the thing that made someone extraordinary starts colliding with the reality of professional football. Because for years, Travis Hunter felt bigger than the sport itself. The #1 recruit in America, the player who shocked college football, the athlete who followed Deion Sanders into chaos and somehow became even more famous because of it. Everywhere he went, the mythology grew larger. Every highlight felt unreal. One snap at corner, the next at receiver. Interceptions, touchdowns, crowds losing their minds. It didn't feel normal. It felt like football accidentally created a player without restrictions, and fans became addicted to the feeling. Because Travis Hunter represented something sports rarely gives people anymore: wonder. The feeling that maybe, just maybe, you were watching something the game had never seen before, and for a while, it looked real. That's why this story feels different from every other hyped prospect entering the NFL. This isn't just about talent, it's about identity. Because Travis Hunter's entire football life has been built around proving limitations don't apply to him. But the NFL survives by creating limitations: snap counts, recovery schedules, role management, preservation, structure. And structure has a way of slowly changing people, especially players whose greatness came from freedom. That's the collision happening now. Not publicly, not dramatically, quietly, behind meeting room doors, inside coaching conversations, through subtle decisions. Should he focus more on corner? Should offensive snaps decrease? Should his body be protected? Can anyone actually survive this workload long term? And maybe the scariest part, those questions aren't unreasonable, because football has seen this story before. Not the exact player, but the machine surrounding him, the obsession, the expectations, the need to turn someone into mythology before they've even entered their prime. Football loves creating superheroes, but it rarely protects them. Eventually, the game always starts asking for payment. Every collision matters, every season matters, every hit matters, and no position in football escapes physics forever, especially not someone trying to play two roles against the most violent athletes on earth. At some point this season, Travis Hunter is going to wake up sore in places he's never felt before. His legs heavy, his shoulders burning, his hands swollen from collisions most fans will forget 5 minutes after they happen. And less than a week later, football will ask him to do it all again. That's the reality hiding underneath the mythology, because eventually, the body starts negotiating, not with words, with swelling, with exhaustion, with recovery time, with mornings where getting out of bed quietly becomes part of the job. That's what makes Travis Hunter so fascinating right now. He's not entering the NFL as a normal rookie. He's entering as an experiment, a challenge to everything modern football believes about specialization. And experiments become dangerous once reality gets involved, because eventually talent collides with exhaustion. The body keeps score, and football always collects what it's owed. You can already feel the pressure building around him. Every debate show, every headline, every social media clip. Can he actually play both ways? Should he? Would focusing on one position make him greater? Would trying to do both destroy him faster? Can he become the next Deion? Can he become something football has literally never seen before? People talk about Travis Hunter like he's an idea instead of a person. And maybe that's the first warning sign. Because once the world decides you're special, it stops allowing you to struggle normally. One quiet game becomes panic. One injury becomes national conversation. One mistake becomes evidence the experiment failed. That pressure destroys players long before the body does. Mentally, emotionally, psychologically. Because eventually every athlete reaches the same terrifying realization. People fell in love with the myth of you before they ever understood the human being underneath it. And maybe no young football player is carrying that weight more right now than Travis Hunter. Because fans don't just want him to succeed, they want him to prove something. That football can still surprise us. that limits can still be broken, that greatness can still look mythical. But the NFL is not built for myths. The NFL is built for survival, and survival is often ugly. Painkillers, ice baths, recovery rooms, film study at midnight, short weeks, long flights, bodies slowly deteriorating underneath expectation. The public only sees Sundays. They don't see the mornings after. They don't see how quickly football turns excitement into exhaustion. And the higher expectations rise, the more dangerous ordinary human struggle becomes. That's the trap. Because Travis Hunter's uniqueness is what made the world obsessed with him. But uniqueness is also what makes football nervous. The league wants certainty, predictability, control. And Travis Hunter has never felt controllable. That's why people can't stop watching him. Because when he's on the field, football feels unpredictable again. Every snap feels like possibility. But possibility comes with risk. And risk terrifies organizations investing millions of dollars into one body. That's why this story feels heavier than people realize. Because beneath all the highlights, all the excitement, all the hype, there's a quieter question hiding underneath everything. What happens if the safest version of Travis Hunter is also the least special? What happens if football slowly removes the very thing that made him unforgettable? Not all at once, slowly. Fewer offensive snaps, more recovery days, more caution, more preservation, until eventually, the player who once looked limitless starts looking manageable, safe, normal. And maybe that's the real fear surrounding Travis Hunter. Not failure, transformation. Because football changes everyone eventually, even legends, especially legends. The game has a way of taking the most electric parts of people, then asking them to sacrifice those parts in order to survive longer. And survival sounds good, until you realize survival sometimes means becoming smaller than the myth people imagined. That's why this story feels emotional. Because deep down, everyone understands what Travis Hunter represents. The fear of losing the thing that makes you different. The fear of becoming safer, but less alive. The fear that greatness might require destroying pieces of yourself just to keep going. And the scary part is, Travis Hunter is still young enough to be figuring out who he is. Instead, football already decided who it needs him to become. That pressure can swallow people whole. Because once a player becomes symbolic, they stop belonging to themselves. They belong to expectations, to headlines, to debates, to history, to the impossible standard people created around them before they ever had the chance to breathe. And football has never been gentle with players carrying impossible expectations. The game takes, slowly at first, then all at once. That's why football keeps becoming obsessed with impossible players. Because impossible players make people believe limits aren't real, at least for a little while. But eventually, every impossible football story reaches the same moment. The moment where the game stops asking, how special can you become? And starts asking, how much can your body survive? That's where Travis Hunter is now, standing directly between mythology and reality. Maybe he changes football forever. Maybe 10 years from now, people talk about him as the player who completely shattered positional limits. Maybe he becomes one of the greatest athletes the sport has ever seen. Or maybe football changes him first. Maybe preservation replaces freedom. Maybe structure replaces creativity. Maybe survival slowly replaces the thing that made him feel impossible in the first place. Because eventually, every extraordinary football player discovers the same truth. Football never stops taking. It only decides whether what's left was worth it.